Hey, welcome back, you guys. Today we are going to be interviewing the amazing Tavia Redburn, who is a community builder member, and she has grown her group to over 5,000 photographers, where they specialize in marketing for birth photographers. Tavia is going to share her story and how she sell to her Facebook communities and save thousands of dollars in Facebook ads. By the way, I'm Elizabeth, and I help business owners grow and scale communities around their brand. On this channel specifically, I'm sharing quick wins, actionable tips, but most importantly, the way of being and leadership skills that you need to grow an engaged community that you have always wanted. So let's go ahead and get started. Right, Tavia, I'm so excited to have you now that I know that it is Tavia and not Tavia. And we were just chatting a little bit before we started streaming about your group. And I think you said you started it in, you said 2015 or 16?
Yep.
And now you're at 5,500 members?
Yep. 5,433. I just looked.
Oh my gosh. It's all about slow growth. And tell us a little bit, like, what does that look like?
Oh man. So I would say the majority of the time I have had no plan, no strategy for the group. It has existed and I engage with people, but there's not been like a content strategy. There's not really been like a growth strategy consistently. It's all been pretty much organic growth. I would say probably 2018, 2019, I did start intentionally pushing people to the Facebook group because I saw the connections that were happening and I saw the potential benefits that could have long term, but also grew my email list with the Facebook group. So they both kind of grown together. And the last couple of years, it is ticking up slowly, but I would say that massive growth happened in probably 2018, 2019.
I know your group is for photographers, but tell us a little bit about like what problem the group solves. Who's the group for?
It's for birth photographers. So the group is called The Beauty in Birth, which is the name of my company. And it is all about birth photography, birth photographers of all levels coming in, some brand new, some experienced. And there's a lot of photo sharing, photo critiques, business questions, gear questions, that kind of thing. So we're just there to support a very specific niche of photography, learn how to grow their business.
And when you started the group, you said you weren't exactly educating yet. So you had no intention to sell to them, right?
I had an intention to maybe sell sometime, but I didn't have like a specific strategy in place. I was just like, well, if I ever want to educate, I know I need a Facebook group or at least some kind of audience. And a Facebook group was the first way but other than like a Facebook page that I started to build my audience.
How you started incorporating the email list.
On the questions, I don't know at what point they added the ability to ask questions, but when they did, to enter the group, I put my lead magnet in there and I said, hey, if you want whatever the lead magnet was at the time, drop your email address below. And I would just, me or my VA would manually add those people to our email list. So if they came into our group, they got added to our email list. And then occasionally I would post in the group if we had a webinar coming up, or if we had, a new freebie or a new podcast or those kind of things, I would just post in the group. And so it's actually been a really, really good way to grow super qualified leads for free from our Facebook group.
We actually crossed paths in James Wedmore's Business by Design group. Tell us about some of your digital educational offers.
So I have a certification for birth photographers in the same way that a doula would be certified before attending a birth. We offer a certification for birth photographers. And then I also have a marketing course for people to learn how to get fully booked. And so I'm not using my Facebook group to promote those directly necessarily, but I definitely use it for webinar leads, like I said, email list leads. And I did a really cool thing that I don't know if this is a good time to share it or not, as far as like what's working. Our last launch, Facebook ads were so expensive. And I just was like, basically out of my budget. And I was like, okay, well, we're nowhere near our leads goal list. And so whenever I post about it in the Facebook group, I'll get some leads, but it's not very many compared to how many people I have. So it's like, let's create an event for the webinar. We'll invite as many people as we can. Well, of course, Facebook only lets you invite like your friends automatically. With 5,000 people in my group, I paid my kids, I think $100 for every 100 people that they like click to invite, like to personally invite to this. So we invited all 5,400 and something people to this event so that they could see the invitation to the webinar. That launch, I think we had almost 50% of our sales come from, I traced back to our Facebook group from like awesome. Doing all of that. And so that is for me, this was in July. So in July, that's when I was like, holy moly, when I did the debrief, which is something that James teaches, and I do it after every live launch, I was like, holy moly, I am way underutilizing this Facebook group because none of my actual students came from ads. My students came from 50% were like other social media platforms and 50% were from my Facebook group. And this is $1,000 program. So that's what got me like excited about, okay, I need to dig more into this Facebook group and stop sleeping on it.
Are you only live launching? Are you doing anything evergreen or anything like that yet?
The certification has been on evergreen for almost a year. And then the marketing course, we live launch 2 to 3 times a year.
I love that you do that certification. Everyone that asks me if I do like newborn stuff, I'm always like, no, because like I don't have any formal training in it. And I really feel like to handle somebody's baby, like I'll do lifestyle stuff where I'm not touching the baby, but for anytime you're touching the baby or like really interacting like at the birth, like I really feel like there should be some formal training.
I totally agree. And like the birth photographer is the only one in that room that's not certified in something. You know, you've got your midwife, you've got your nurses, you've got your doula. You're not family, but you're hired to be there, but you're not certified. It's like birth photography. I saw a huge gap there because it's like, all it takes is one bad thing to happen with one photographer for hospitals to be like, no more birth photographers, you know? So my goal when I created that in 2019 was to try to get ahead of any potential problems to teach new birth photographers the right way to behave and not behave in somebody's birth space. So that's kind of where it came from.
Looking at the debrief, what will you guys do differently but still utilize the Facebook group next time?
That's where I've been more intentional with making my personal KPIs around engagement and active members in the Facebook group. That was something I had my VA doing kind of passively, like, oh, here's what the engagement in the Facebook group, but we didn't really have a plan to increase it. And once I saw that, I was like, okay, I'm going to take this to at least figure out what the strategy is going to be before I pass it back to her. So since then, I have been tracking weekly, like which posts are doing well, which are getting engagement, like our active members, our engagement rate, all that stuff. And so my intention is just to warm everybody up and get that group as active and engaged as possible, while also continuing to offer them our freebies and build our email list until our next launch.
And the active members, are you guys trying to hit a certain percentage?
It's about 50% is our active member percentage. And I didn't know if that was good or bad, to be honest. I didn't know what to track. You know, it seemed good. I'm like, okay, that's good. That's definitely a lot more than Instagram. Like I don't have 50% of my Instagram followers active. Definitely the engagement rate is what got me. The engagement of those active members has been as high as 30%. I think right now it's more like 20 to 25%. And again, I was like, we're not getting numbers anywhere close to that on Instagram. So to me, that was like, again, I don't know if these are great or not, but for me, when I'm comparing them to other things we're spending time on, it seems like it's pretty good. So one thing that I've been doing is just being more intentional with a content plan, like being more intentional with actually posting stuff, because before it was really just them talking to each other and I would come in every once in a while. But I thought, well, let me see what happens if I intentionally post stuff. And so I have kind of a content plan like I would on Instagram, but I've heard you say this before and I totally agree. It's so much easier than posting on Instagram. It's like literally a 1-sentence thing that gets 100 comments. And I'm like, oh my gosh, this is so much better than Instagram. And so having that schedule helps my brain because since I'm the one doing it, it's like, okay, I'm going to do a promo post. I'm going to do like a get to know you type thing. I'm going to ask for their opinion on something. And I've been like saving those posts in a spreadsheet. Like on Instagram, you can just see your posts and see your analytics, but I can't do that easily in my group because it's all over the place. So I've been saving them in a spreadsheet so that I can go back and see like this post did really well, this one didn't, so that I know what to continue doing. I'm a big time data nerd. I blame James Wedmore for that. Like it's all about the numbers. So I'm like, it's about the numbers, about everything. So tracking those posts and stats every week has helped a ton, and having some kind of plan in place. And not only that, but tracking what has worked well and what hasn't in the past and paying attention to like why. So if I ask them, you know, have you tried DSLR or have you tried mirrorless, or are you still using DSLRs, which is like a photography thing that they want to talk about? And it's like, okay, so I asked them about gear. Is it about gear they want to talk about, or is it they want to like share their opinion and they want to be like kind of seen as an expert. I've noticed that about them, is like they want to be helpful when it makes them look good. That's probably true about everybody. And so then it's like, okay, if I can dig into why that got a lot of comments and engagement, then how can I keep asking more things like that? So that's been working really well in the group.
And you can always join our Facebook community called The Community Builder. You just search The Community Builder in Facebook groups and it will pop up, and you can meet other members like Tavia who are rocking the heck out of their Facebook community.